Welcome to the show. My name is Carpo, or Joshua, or if that sounds better. 15 minutes free thinking, maybe a little drinking. Promise that I'll keep it together. I have a few thoughts that I would like to share, so grab your headphones and a snack and head into your favorite chair. Or maybe you prefer to listen while you comb your hair or feed a bear. I just don't care as long as you are happy there.
Hello my friends, and good afternoon. My name is Joshua, and today I'm going to talk to you about sycophants, as well as just taking orders, or loyalty versus obedience, and all the different terminology that comes along with this, for the sake of addressing why I tend to fall into more of an anarchist viewpoint on how I view politics and the world in general, and to try to explain that in a succinct way that isn't overly convoluted or complicated and lends some credibility to the viewpoint. So, what is a sycophant? A sycophant is somebody who is an obsequious person. An obsequious person is somebody who sucks up to leadership or sucks up to somebody who's famous. This happens in politics, in Hollywood, in religions. It's the way that people treat cult leaders. It's the way that people treat celebrities. And an obsequious person can be a sycophant. And there are many different terms for this. There are many different ways to describe the type of person that we're referring to here. And for some of them, or many of them, at least those who follow closely in the footsteps of somebody else and take their opinions seriously, we have loyalty versus obedience, or just taking orders. So, for example, in the military, people take orders. Is that okay, just because you were told to do something? What if you are told to go into a village and kill all the women and children, and that's all that's there? Would you do it? My father did. It was the only story he told the family, really, about Vietnam, at least the only one I ever heard. And, yeah, it fucked him up. Yes, it did. And I'll say that I personally cannot even comprehend harming an innocent civilian on behalf of taking orders. But that is what obedience breeds. And this is not the same as a sycophant, because a sycophant is somebody who most often knows that the person that they are sucking up to is full of shit, but chooses to do so in order to gain favor or profits, benefits, whatever it might be. Loyalty, on the other hand, isn't the same as just taking orders. Loyalty would be a person who takes their own action as well. So often a loyalist will kind of just create their own delusion based around what another person thinks. And this happens with, well, it's human nature. There are many different ways to describe it. We have the ass kisser, the bootlicker, the brown noser, the suck up, the teacher's pet. And that's probably the one that people are going to find the earliest in their lives, is the guy who always kisses the teacher's ass, the guy who's going to be the narc and tell on everybody who's shooting spit wads at their neighbor. That guy. There were some older terms for these types of people. The crawler, Uriah Heep, a toad eater, or a toady, and it goes on and on. Kowtower, yes man, a minion, a fawner, parasite, lackey, leech, sponge. But I find fascination with the synonyms here. But they would call people servile, slavish, subservient, adherent, or even a disciple. which a disciple who doesn't make some of his own decisions becomes a sycophant. And that's where we come to why I find myself to be more of an anarchist. Anytime there's one person in charge of a lot, I think that they don't deserve that power. I've so far, and this is only based on my own experience, I have personally never found a leader, a representative, anybody who I have agreed with 100% on all their policies. In other words, no matter what leadership, even say Bernie Sanders, I love the fact that he's, has America's interest at heart, but I also don't agree with all of his policies. I know some of them are, invasive, and, I have very mixed feelings on politics, what's important, what's not, and I know my own ignorance, my own level of not knowing, and all we can often do is just trust a person has our best interest at heart. But even then, even when you know a person is 100% honest, straightforward, you might question some of their viewpoints, which I do with everybody I meet. This makes it very hard to relate to folks politically or religiously or anything, because I find myself just kind of alone in my thoughts. Like, well, this is possible, but I'm not going to make any absolute judgments on this, and I disagree with this policy. I've never seen a time in history where if you disagree with any policy of, your political officials, then you're deemed to be somehow an enemy or a guy on the other side. How dare you vote for an environmental issue or want the national parks open, those kinds of things. It's a strange time to be alive, but isn't that always the case? Has anything really changed? Haven't there always been, those who are willing to cater to what somebody else tells them is true and what's real, without doing any critical dialogue, thought, research, especially in a time when we have more access to information than we've ever had before. So I've come to the conclusion that for a lot of folks, it's a game. They want to play that game and be the winner. And it's really that simple. Life is not about what you can do for your neighbor or the good deeds you can do before you die, or God forbid, self-improvement. No. We just want more for ourselves because we think that'll make us happy. Enablers would be another term. And it would be the entitled ones in our society that we see, the entitled people you run into every day, that are the ones who allow people like this to flourish. Because they're made promises, and they believe those promises. If you believe what you're told by an individual, and you think that they're out to help everybody else, it's always good to be very cautious and a little bit skeptical and rational about these things. That your interests might coincide with other people's, but a lot of the time they don't. Look no further than the Heaven's Gate cult, all dying in their Nike sneakers, waiting to be taken away to some comet, some planet, some dimension where they can finally feel free, and having a leader that convinces them that that's the way to do it. Look at Jim Jones, the Kool-Aid. Drink the Kool-Aid. It's fortunate that there were enough people, at least, that resisted. They were forced to, they were killed anyway. But Jim Jones being an example that in that incident, many people did resist, because there are a lot of free minds out there that are still rational enough to say, what are you talking about? I'm not going to take my life for you. But young men have been doing it for their, for the military for centuries, and millennia, rather. So it's hard to say what's normal and what's not, and how easy it is for any one of us to just fall into a role of believing what somebody else tells us is true. I honestly don't know how easy it would be for me to do it. I know a lot losing my father when I was young, and also having strong resistance to authority are tied in together. And therefore, I'm not willing to believe what a person tells me, especially when I have no evidence that that's happened in the past or that it's going to happen in the future. So, take from it what you will. It's a beautiful day out here. I'm going to get some things done. I promise. Thanks for coming to Carpo's channel, yo.